Yeah, they have so much vacancy.
Go ahead, Greg.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. If I could call us all to order, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. It is Wednesday, May the 7th, 2025 at 3 o'clock here in the legislature chambers for the Housing and Economic Development Committee meeting. We have 4 members present. Legislator Brooks will be just a few minutes behind, but is on his way. But we're joined by Legislator Pillar, Koreman, and Sigler, and special guests and staff. So thanks for being here. Any public comment today? No? Any changes to the agenda? Okay, moving right along. We have our minutes from April 2nd, 2025. If I could have someone move those, moved by Mike Sigler, seconded by Veronica. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Great, those pass unanimously. We have some appointments. We have some advisory board appointments, ID 13260. This is to the Southern Tier 8 Regional Board. Kurt Anderson from the Ithaca Area Economic Development Representative. Term expires December 31st, 2025. And that should have been either submitted or provided to folks. Any questions on this appointment? There's 3 members from the county who serve on the ST8 Regional Board, myself being one of them, Katie Borgella in her role, and then also a member of the IAED team. So that's the composition of that. So with no discussion, all those in favor? Mike?
Oh, sorry.
Great, that's unanimous. So I guess we're now on to Chair's report, moving right along. Don't ever let somebody tell you I'm not crisp. But we're excited today to have Kate De La Garza, Executive Director from Ithaca Neighborhood Housing Services, otherwise known to many as INHS, with us today. And Kate, I don't know if you have anyone else from your team remote or with you, okay. So I guess I'll turn it over to you. And appreciate you being here and just sort of an update, report, discussion about all the good things and all the good work that y'all are doing in our community and across the region.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me today. I've met with many of you one-on-one, and I've now been the new leader of INHS for just over a year. So I do still call myself new because we just moved to Ithaca, my family down from Syracuse last fall. So in many ways, we're still settling into the community. My kids are in high school and elementary school here, and we're having a great experience. So I'm thankful to be here today. And as you know, this body grows and changes, I'll come back, for anything specific or general that you'd like for me to come back. I'm going to touch on many things. I did send a slide deck here. Is that the biggest it can get?
Let me try.
Yeah. And I forgot my computer, so Taylor is very kindly helping navigate this slide deck for me. And thank you for all the support getting me here. So Kate De La Garza, I use she, her, or they, them pronouns. And like I said, I've been here for just over a year. Hey, just getting started. And INHS has been in the community for nearly 50 years. So we're a 49-year-old organization, which is hard to believe. I do have my general slide deck here today, but I tried to add, oh, thank you. We are a NeighborWorks organization. I want to acknowledge that too. That is also a 50-year-old organization chartered by the federal government, also in 1976 when we were formed. So we were one of the first NeighborWorks organizations nationally. It's now 250, a network of 250 nationally high quality, high impact nonprofits that is part of this network. And so we're very fortunate in that regard and are excited as we're coming up on 50 years. So maybe you can just advance it. That looks great. That's a little bit bigger. My old eyes. So I didn't know like the starting point for everybody. So I just want to level set, on some things. We started in Ithaca. And then in 2015, we merged, well, that's not the right word. We affiliated with Better Housing of Tompkins County, which then expanded our service area to 7 counties. So I always try to get this right. Tompkins, Tioga, Chemung, Cayuga, Cortland, Seneca, Sigler. I think I got them all. And so in these counties, we more or less do 4 lines of business. Property management and maintenance, that's half my staff. And we manage and maintain all of the properties that we own. We have a robust home ownership department that does lending, down payment assistance, minor and major repair, and home counseling. We see about 500 people a year that we counsel to buy their first homes. As you can imagine, that's gotten a lot harder these days for many different reasons. We now have a manufactured home line of business. We own a 151 pad manufactured home community called Compass in Trumansburg. And I am completely blanking on the 4th line. Oh no, Dimension 4, rental. And we develop our own rental housing. Oh, sorry, it's already been a long week. So we own almost 800 apartments across our 7 county footprint. We are actually only in 4 counties for multifamily development right now. And we maintain and manage all of those buildings. And I'll get later in the slide deck to our new projects coming up. So maybe you can advance it. Thank you so much. So I covered some of this. You know, we are unique in that we are not just a community-based nonprofit that started in Ithaca, but that we, compared to our peers in the NeighborWorks network, we're one of the only that does home ownership and rental development and counseling and minor and major repair and managing all of our own stuff. That is rare for nonprofits in affordable housing. Usually folks just focus on one of those things, and we've chosen to focus on them all, and we have had great success in each line of business, although the headwinds are large right now. Okay, next. Oh, here's a great map of that. So this just shows our, our 7 county region and where we're located. I will say that one caveat to our 4 lines of business is that, in terms of home ownership, especially, and to some extent rental development, we can only participate where there is federal or local subsidy to help us provide services, right? So in some counties, there's more money dedicated to home repair than there is, to other things. And so we have a different level of participation across our footprint, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So our homeownership program, I think the major thing I want folks to understand here is that $20,000 used to move the needle for us in Ithaca. It's virtually non-existent now that we provide folks making less than 80% area median income housing opportunity on their first home in Ithaca. We see folks moving and going, Elmira, Cortland, all points outside of Ithaca to make that $20,000 go as far as possible. I'll be honest that this is one of the reasons we are excited about our manufactured home line of business, because Trumansburg is only 20 minutes away and we're always looking at other opportunities, because that $20,000 does go a little bit further in that space. I will say though that it's not a traditional stick-built home. You don't own the land largely, and that's a different model. The Community Housing Trust is a really, really big part of what we do. I think hopefully most of you have seen our modular homes on Sears Street, right across the street. Those are 4 of the 7 homes in that latest scattered site project. The trust now has about 70 houses in it. We own the land underneath the building, and then we sell the improvements for between $150,000 and $200,000. It is a shared equity model, so it appreciates at a set amount over the years, and you get back when you sell the depreciated value of anything you add to the property. So if you put on a new deck, you put hardwood flooring in instead of, vinyl, you would get the value of that back at the end when you sell. What we find is that the average tenure in our CHT properties, we've had about 25 turnover, is 10 to 15 years. Really, people are moving when their family size changes or they have a family change like a separation or divorce. a death, something like that. It's extraordinarily stabilizing for our families because, especially in Ithaca, you can live with a very affordable home payment, not have a car, walk to work, walk to your children's school. It's amazing for stabilizing of moderate, low income to moderate income families. The last thing I'll say is, I think you all probably know this, the CHT does come with a special taxation in Tompkins County where you are assessed and taxed on the restricted value, because you can never go out and sell this home. Even though these homes are appraising for $400,000 right now in downtown Ithaca, we had a duplex 1,200 square foot CHT appraised for just over $400,000. It can only be resold at a fraction of that per the agreement. And so you are taxed at that restricted value because you can never sell for that market rate value. But it's instructive to understand that that is how big the gap is right now. That if we're selling something for $165, it may very well be appraised at $400, and that's the struggle right now. We are doing both modular and stick-built. One of the headwinds we have right now, which is enormous, is cost of construction. And I fear that we're not on a trajectory that is going to make this better. And we can't find anybody to build, 7 to 20 unit projects. There is not a depth of construction in Tompkins County that is available to bid on those and to bid on those, with prices that we can build at. So we have pivoted on our latest CHT to modular. We use Simplex out of Scranton, Pennsylvania, and then we actually GC'd this ourselves, this year's street project. Modular is still just shy of $300,000, 300 a square foot, I'll say, let's put it that way, while stick-built is closer to 400. So there is a savings there that is significant, and we will continue to pursue for this size project and for this product. But even with that delta of savings, there's so many other factors that create challenges right now to this product in particular. I just say with the CHTs, we have 7 coming online in Ithaca this year, 4 on Sears Street, single family homes, 1 on Cleveland, which we built 6 feet up to accommodate the new flood map, as well as 2 in Freeville, 2 ranch homes in Freeville. And then we have 10 townhomes coming online by the end of the year in Trumansburg, next to our Village Grove project, which we'll show here in a minute. Minor repair, largely for elderly and disabled folks. This is anything from when you're in the hospital and you need to come home and have a handrail put on your, in your bathroom or your front porch to a new front porch or a ramp. And then next is major repair, which is, whether you need a new roof or you have a more significant, structural issue in your house. It really does depend on the money that we are awarded and how it can be dispersed. We have a septic grant right now where we're repairing failing septic systems. So we really do go after as many different kinds of money as possible to move the needle for folks who are, usually on a fixed income, living in a house that is aging around them. Okay, so rental properties, I wanted to make sure I had some good data for you. We, in Tompkins County, have about 12 different properties. I would say, I will describe them as communities. The caveat to that is that some of our communities are scattered site, right? So we have a property called Ithaca City Apartments, and that is a lot of our old duplexes and triplexes that were financed together through a rehabilitation in 2018. So even though they're 12 communities, they are almost 550 units altogether. The 650 plus units is when we start adding in our properties in other counties outside of Tompkins. So we've got Glen Lake and Watkins Glen. We've got Wheat Street now up in the village of Cayuga outside of Auburn. We've got Pineview in Seneca Falls, and Verona Village is our senior HUD property in Ovid, New York. It's also worth noting that Compass Manufactured Homes at the top end of the Trumansburg Village straddles both Seneca and Tompkins County for maximum complexity there. Oh, also, Compass is 75% homeowners and 25% rentals. So we still have about 50 empty pads there that we're working to fill in, but in manufactured home parks, many people own their own unit and they just pay the lot rent. And then we own a host of units ourselves that we rent all in, lot rent and the trailer, for lack of a better word. We don't really use that word anymore, but that, that is what people refer to them as. So we also have developed a host of projects for other people. So Michi House is a really good example for TCA. We were a consultant on that project. We do consult whenever it makes sense. It's something we're always excited to do when we have the bandwidth to do it. Let's see. Oh yeah, I list out all the Tompkins County communities that make up that, over 500 units altogether. And they're scattered all over town. And mostly at this day and in this day and age, when we use state money, so we use primarily low-income housing tax credits. Those are a federal source built into the tax code, Section 42 of the IRS tax code, that are funneled through states and then awarded in a competitive process. So that is the primary funding source that we will be continuing to go after. Unlike many of the entitlements that have been on the chopping block right now, because the LIHTC, which is what we call it for short, is in the tax code, it is fairly protected right now and embraced by both sides of the aisle. So right now there's an expansion bill out there, and one of the co-sponsors is Tenny, who is part of our service area in Seneca County. So we expect that hopefully the number of tax credits will continue to grow so that we can do more and more projects. They're built extremely high energy, efficient. Village Grove, which I'll get to out in Trumansburg, is our first passive house net zero project. And we pride ourselves in always pushing that envelope to be as green as possible. Here we go, perfect timing. So these are literally the first residents of Village Grove to sign a lease there in December of last year, just before the holidays. Really exciting to get them in. They live in a townhouse right to the left of this playground, and those are some interior shots of the quality that we build to: solid surface counters, luxury vinyl plank flooring, and really solidly built in passive house design. This project is unique. It took us many years to get out of the ground in Trumansburg. What's unique about it is that it's a collaboration with a private developer who is right now selling some of the market rate lots adjacent. So eventually there will be market rate for sale homes, our community housing trust 10 townhomes, as well as 46 units of rental housing. And those units of housing serve everybody from folks exiting homelessness to up to 60% of area median income, which the incomes actually did just go up, which is a challenge. So in Tompkins right now, 60% of area median income for a family of 4 is $72,000 a year.
Quick question.
Yeah, please.
Use your mic, Mike.
What?
Mike.
Oh, sorry. Like, this is an impressive project. How much of the infrastructure was already there? Was there water?
Nothing.
Was there nothing?
Nothing. So one of the ways I would say we distinguish ourselves is that there's a lot of affordable developers who build the same product over and over again. That is not what we do. We like the projects that bring a challenge, and this one had many, and infrastructure was one of them, to the tune of about $2 million. So 7-10 years ago when we were planning it before COVID, that felt like a manageable thing we could fund. And we also dedicated an entire street back to the village as well. And we raised the money to do that. And we did some cost sharing with the owner who sold us and now is developing the market rate lots. That, with the escalation in prices through COVID and with the challenges that entails, we're really hoping that the governor's pro-housing designation and the infrastructure money that may come along with that will be a partnership in the future for projects like this, because we came in 30% over cost during COVID, and it was tough. We had to go back to the state, and then we had to leave more fee in it as well, and that's a struggle. We did also raise $2 million to build a standalone nursery school for the Trumansburg Community School, right? So that's something also that most developers wouldn't do, but we recognize the value both to the village and to our community to have it on site, right? Because you can drop your kid off and go potentially even walk to work in the village, right? It's amazing. So it is a true mixed income, mixed use development built to the highest level of green standards. I wish I had the aerial, it's pretty beautiful. Founders Way, downtown, this is our last project in Ithaca, 75 units. Also home to several commercial tenants, Learning Web, Village at Ithaca, and Catholic Charities in the old brick building on site. And redevelopment of a school on the super block with GIAC and BJM, so a great co-location. I'll note here that we're also co-located with Community Housing Trust homes, and what I like to say is I want all of our residents to be able to look out the window where we can do it, where we have the room, and say, oh my gosh, I could be that homeowner next, right? If you so choose. Not everybody wants to be a homeowner, but we have a robust Section 8 to homeownership program right now in our homeownership department. And then we serve moderate income folks looking to homeownership. So we're really trying to make it possible for anybody we serve in our rental portfolio to become a homeowner.
Do you mind explaining what the IDD is?
Oh, yes. So we have several what we call special needs set-aside units here. So the 13 ESHI units, Empire State Supportive Housing, that's the funding source that supports people exiting homelessness. We have units set aside for youth and for victims of domestic violence. And then the 9 intellectually disabled, developmentally disabled units are with RACers. So we have very deep partnerships with the organizations, Advocacy Center, Salvation Army, Learning Web, and RACers here, where we have folks on site serving all of those different, all the different needs if those tenants have them.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I will say, I don't want to talk about ESHI too much, right? But generally the model with ESHI is nonprofit owns the building, service provider services the units, right? So you're not always the same entity. We don't have an in-house service department. I will talk about that in a bit, but that it requires a lot of coordination between your service providers and the owner of the building to make sure you're on the same page and you're really communicating, especially when a resident falls into crisis. This is just a little bit about Trumansburg, Compass, the manufactured home community. Like I said, we have 50 plus empty pads, so that's a huge priority of ours right now is backfilling those, and we can only fill so many at a time because of the funding sources that are available. Next. Okay, so what's new? This is what I wanted to leave you with. We just got funded for our Varna project up on Fries and Dryden Road in the town of Dryden. We got funded on the first time that we went in. It's an income averaging project, which is a classification within the tax credits that allows you to serve a wider range of incomes, thereby being a workforce housing project. So I think we're going up to 90% of AMI here. And we also have very low income that we're going to partner with the Village at Ithaca and Learning Web on to, again, serve homeless youth exiting instability in their housing. So we're really excited about this. It's on the backside of Cornell. It's right, the bus stop is literally in front of the project. We do aspire to include 6 community housing trust homes along Dryden Road, which is what the hamlet really wanted to see. And then as the project slopes down, we'll have 3 larger apartment buildings, walk-up apartment buildings that will serve the workforce housing tenants.
Okay, this is right on the corner there, that sort of pad that then
it goes down to the creek, yeah.
Okay.
It's not within the floodplain at all because it's downhill, right? But it's that site that many different private developers tried to make work for 3 or 4 years, and we finally said we could make this work.
That's great, very exciting.
It's super exciting, and being a pro-housing community, the town of Dryden has been super supportive, and we're really, really excited to meet folks' needs here. So we envision this being a great location if you're working a new job at Cornell or for your youth, working your first job, that you can easily get downtown or points north to go to work. If you could just go back for a second. The next exciting project that we're going in this fall on is our State Street Senior Project. So this is just over 50 units on the corner of, between Geneva and Albany on State Street, so 1 block off the Commons. And we will serve 62 plus seniors, 62 plus in age, sorry. And we'll have a set aside for some frail elderly that we'll partner with the Finger Lakes Independence Center on. And the goal really is to have this national model of intergenerational, where we have daycare on the first floor and seniors above, and we have a lot of, interaction between those two populations. Prior to the latest, we were in conversation about another Head Start, because we have one at Hancock that we'd love to replicate that model here. Obviously, we're talking to many different providers right now, but that would be our dream, is to have another Head Start here. Okay, so one thing I definitely want folks to know about, since you represent a lot of constituents here in Tompkins County and Ithaca proper, one thing that was a huge priority of mine when I joined is building the resident services function and capacity within our organization. As we scaled right before COVID and then through COVID, now bringing on 2 brand new properties outside of Ithaca, I think COVID revealed to us all that that was a really difficult time for everybody, right? And certainly a difficult time for folks to pay rent. We forgave a lot of rent during that time to make sure that people could stay in their apartments. And now we're building a function. I have one, for lack of a better word, social worker on staff, human services professional, and we're looking to grow this. We have several grants in now for the next one. To really make sure that we are, and this was a recent resident meeting we had at one of our communities, to make sure that we are maximizing our communication with residents, especially when residents experience a crisis of any kind. That could be anything from a job change, job loss, to a family situation changing and needing to transfer a unit for some reason. There's a number of things, all the way to, struggling with just exiting homelessness and getting used to living in a permanent supportive unit. So we now have a dedicated staff member to not only support our property management department and all of our property managers and maintenance folks in the fields, because those are the folks who experience, people in need when it happens. So Claire is her name. She's there to support, first and foremost, residents, and then our property management staff, as we're interacting with residents and trying to make sure people are getting exactly what they need, no matter what they're going through. Really hoping this just increased resident communication and trust, and that we have many, many different open lines of communication. I will say the change in the living wage last year was something I took very seriously, and we knew it was coming. And so we've begun changes on our front line, especially of getting to that living wage. We're not there yet, right? But that is one of my goals. And the more stable we are in property management, the more I can reach that that number for all of my staff, especially my frontline staff. So outcomes, we want a reduced eviction rate. We want to do everything we can to keep people in units. And I was just reviewing eviction data here before I came, and realizing that we had many, many units last year, many households that were where that process was begun and were resolved, which means they were able to stay. So our goal is always to connect people to the services and the money to catch up if that's what they need, before proceeding with any legal action. Increased resident stability. The more people are able to stay in their housing and be stable, right? Hopefully the better outcomes they have for their families. And increased trust and coordination with those service providers, some of which I mentioned earlier. Eventually, my goal too is to make sure that we have spots open in leadership, both within our buildings as community leaders and with our organization as members of our board and committees for residents who we serve. So that's something I'm very excited about, and we're hoping to add that second staff member soon. And then, next year, 50th in 2026, 50th anniversary coming up. So we are in the midst of pre-planning for that right now, and we're going to be really excited to just engage with all of you on what we have planned for that celebration, because it is pretty momentous for us, and I can't believe that we're at 50. So I'm happy to take any questions, because I just covered a lot of information. But I wanted to give an overview, because one of the things I've learned as I've been out in the community is that some people know us from our rental housing, some people know us from our home ownership, right? And sometimes folks don't realize the full breadth of both our business lines and the area that we cover. And so just wanted to give you a good overview of all of that. I hope I haven't talked too long.
No, this has been great. Thank you, Kate. I'll look to my colleagues for any comments or questions. Veronica?
I have 4 questions.
Yay.
You want them all at once, or please?
Rapid fire.
Well, first, thank you, Kate, for this presentation. It is, like you alluded to, it's helpful to see everything, not the details, but an overview of everything that INHS does in one place, since it's all housing related, but within that, it's really diverse. The easiest question, I was surprised that INHS has commercial units, but are those all part of projects, like you mentioned a few
More
examples?
or less, yes, 14 in total. Trumansburg Nursery School was the 14th. So most are within buildings, in mixed-use buildings, and then we have some that are adjacent. So we own, next to Gimme Coffee on State Street, we own this little 500 square foot unit that is around the corner from one of our ICA properties that I believe is a fourplex. So most of them are within buildings, and Henry St. John, for example, where we occupy space, we also rent to, there's a massage therapist in the basement, as well as No More Tears is our biggest nonprofit. Most of our clients on the commercial side are either nonprofits or small businesses.
Makes sense. Thank you. Another question, to what extent, I guess across all these services, to what extent is INHS seeking more like clients, residents, more people to engage versus maintaining a long wait list? I guess in other words, what's the capacity relative to the demand like?
Like how long is our wait list? Is that what the question is?
Yeah, but I assume there will be, if any answers, multiple different answers for different things.
Can I,
Sure, yeah, if you want to jump in.
just maybe as an example, like for Village Grove,
Yeah.
like how many people applied, that might give us.
Yeah, so the lottery there
sense.
was over 100 people, right? And we had, really, when we back out the eShy units, which are set aside for folks exiting homelessness, we had 39 units to offer, right? So our lotteries are often 2, 3, 4 times the amount of people, and our wait list is well over 200 households long. And sometimes that can be, like, we have the longest wait list right now for 1 bedrooms. So sometimes that can be a 2 to 3 year wait. So our answer to that is to move as quickly as possible to develop new supply. And so that's why, what I like to tell people, especially people who are like, you're not gonna stop building in Ithaca, are you? You're not gonna stop building in Tompkins County, are you? No, we are always gonna have a pipeline in Tompkins County, especially in Ithaca where we started. So we have Varna coming online in a year and a half, and then after that, 209 State if we get funded. And then I literally had a conversation today about what hopefully the next project in that pipeline is gonna be. And we're always looking to partner with especially pro-housing villages around Ithaca as the pressure just keeps building, because we have a lack of supply here. So I'll tell you, on my down days, one of my hardest things is that we still have a 200-person plus wait list, and when people come in and say, I'm living in my car, can you give me an apartment now? I have to say no. It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am excited about the Varna project, by the way, and it's a good meeting to present because we have resolutions about it later on the agenda.
Oh, wonderful. I didn't time that on purpose.
Yeah. What about for like the home buyer assistance and major and minor repair programs?
Yeah.
In terms of like capacity versus demand?
It depends on the location. For our CHTs, we have a very robust wait list for both Teaburg, for Village Grove, and for the Sears Street. Less so for our Freeville homes, right? Because they're a little bit farther out. And again, unfortunately, those go by a lottery. So you inquire, you get pre-approved, you get your financing. And let me be clear, we don't provide first mortgages, right? So what we do is we provide the down payment assistance, and we partner with alternatives. We partner with CFC. We try to partner with every local bank that someone might come to us with a pre-approval letter. And so, that does mean that our counseling clients have to participate in that process, right? And that can be hard, right? And there can be many, both real barriers and systemic barriers to getting a mortgage. So we're doing a lot of outreach right now. We're partnering with Southside to do a lot of of first-time home buyer classes to make sure we are getting people in the pipeline to think about credit and all of these things that banks are going to ask them for, so that by the time we do our lotteries for the CHT, we've got the most robust list possible and the most diverse list possible of folks representative of the community. But I want to be real about what those barriers are. They exist, and like some banks utilize much higher credit scores than others, and that's a fact, right? And so we try to be knowledgeable about all of that, but ultimately it's that household's choice of where to go to get a loan.
Thank you. I have a couple more questions, but I think other people were maybe got in the queue.
I have Travis Brooks next, and then Veronica will come back for follow-up.
Kate, there's been a lot of, not a lot, there's been a few projects over the last few years that had substantial ESHI funding in units. And there's been a lot of conversation in the community about the difficulties managing those units. So far, you all have had some pretty good success. I know that we're neighbors in one of them. And some of the issues that others are dealing with, we don't seem to have in that area. What have you all done to, I guess, ensure that the folks that move there, whether they're successful or not and able to maintain their housing, what happens while folks are there, the issues aren't happening as they are in other places?
That's a really, really great question, and I really appreciate that, because it is a big topic right now, and Legislative Sigler and I were talking about this before we opened here. I grew up professionally with the invention of Housing First in Seattle, Washington. So there's a project called 1811 there, which was built in the late 90s, opened while I was in graduate school there, that was, they used to call it bunks for drunks, and that's, that's not politically appropriate at all, but that is what people used to describe Housing First as, not realizing that subset of folks who've been living on the street for 50 years and have been addicted to one substance or another have a 5% or less success rate in getting completely abstinent. That's the reality of the data. So some of these folks were spending $2 million going back and forth to the ER every year. So this project was absolutely transformative and started the national conversation on Housing First, where there's no barrier to entry, whether you're using or drinking. The model out there is 24-hour staffing, right? That is, without getting into great detail, that's not the model of ESHI here, which is the New York State funding source for permanent supportive housing and folks transitioning who often have co-occurring trauma and co-occurring things like addiction, substance use, domestic violence, things that can cause ongoing crisis. So there's different models that exist. Ours, usually you have an outside service provider. I don't know of anybody building ESHI housing here who delivers their own services. And so when I came on, it is very nice what you said about our ESHI housing. I will say we're having more stability in our Founders Way units now than we had in its first year. And I think the reason for that is that we really did change our approach. After I came on, our goal became for one staff person, whether it's from my organization or from our partner organization. So let's just use the domestic violence units we have at Founders, that we have one person, social worker / human services professional from Advocacy Center, from Salvation Army, from the Learning Web if you're in a youth transitioning out of homeless unit. And I count both my maintenance folks and my property management folks as trauma-informed staff people, that you're seeing or interacting with that person at least once a day, right? That you know that person is there for you if something comes up in your life. And that could be as simple as, one of the things that Claire's been just a godsend at working with my staff on is, that can be as simple as, I need help organizing. I'm really overwhelmed and I don't have cleaning supplies, right? Because I just transitioned out of homelessness, that we're there to answer those questions as often as we can. I will say there was a time where we hired full-time security at Founders Way, where we did have, and this is an issue for many properties, whether low income or affordable or not, we had folks entering to find shelter in our common spaces, whether it be stairwells or community rooms. And we also had folks who were struggling, with addiction, entering and sleeping in our spaces. And when there are, I'm just going to be very, very transparent here, when there are used needles in a family project, that is of great, great concern to me as a leader, for my residents. And when I have residents coming to me with that fear, or staff members, that is something we absolutely have to take action on. And so we partnered with HSC to have access to our building at night to help meet people where they're at, to get them the services they need. We had security at the door, and we had more of a staff presence. Not round the clock, but when we weren't there, security was there. So it led to a greater feeling of security and safety. We did have one eviction last year there, and that did entail just a lot of unlicensed guests staying, and that does take place. I want to be really transparent about that. There are situations when community members feel in danger where we do have to move on that, and our goal is to make that as infrequent as possible. So with the new resident services platform, there will always be an intervention, always, especially for beginning a legal process. So we have experienced greater stability as a result. And I do have to give kudos to Salvation Army Advocacy Center and the Learning Web. The Learning Web is located in a commercial space in the building. So I will say that folks who are participating in that program can walk downstairs and meet with their caseworker any time of the day. That is huge, right? So where we can co-locate and have a dedicated office, and we do in all of our eShy projects, have a dedicated office for people to meet in privacy, that's key, right? So it's both thoughtful design and really thoughtful staffing and collaboration.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's a really good question.
Veronica?
Yeah, thank you. One of my questions may be sort of related about the resident services stuff. One, I'm thrilled to see all the progress that you have been making in our planning on that front, and we've talked about this elsewise.
Yeah.
I am curious, well, it's a very common thing for people to be, who are struggling in life in any way. One of the problems might be their landlord or their housing, and
Yeah.
as great as INHS is, it's not exempt. I don't think anyone is.
Nope.
So if that comes up, I guess, what's it like? What are the channels for, say, for Claire, say, in her role to help people with that? Like, that seems like it could be a tough, not conflict of interest, because I think everyone, in some sense, everyone's got the same goal, but a tough spot to be in.
It is. So I think one of the reasons why resident services are so important is that there are situations where there's a disincentive for a resident to come talk to their property manager about a perceived struggle that they're having. Let's just use bed bugs for an example. It's a very common problem. It happens to everybody, right? It happens in luxury hotels and all the way down, to homeless shelters. It's something that that everybody's affected by. If you fear that going and telling your property manager that you have bed bugs is going to get you evicted, then that is not a system that works, right? So in building a function for resident services, we're effectively bifurcating that process where we want you to come talk to us. We want us to help with this issue for your comfort, for the building's comfort, so it doesn't become a more widespread problem, and for us as owners of the building, and to help you, be healthier. And obviously they don't spread disease, but they cause a lot of discomfort, right? So we keep it very separate. Claire is not allowed to talk about rent collection or, or any of the sort of machinations of the day-to-day of property management, right? Now, there are some cases where a struggle someone is going through does lead to arrears, right? We have recently had we have an aging population, right? So we often have people who pass away who live in our housing. But we have recently, in this ramped up sort of more communication, more eyes, on properties and interacting with folks, we've recently found several folks who are alone, no next of kin, and may be struggling with, advanced stages of dementia, and they haven't paid their rent for 6 months. And we're like, what, how can we help you, And so that is, a case where it solves the mystery, right? But people can become very isolated, and I think during COVID, that happened a lot. And so I really view this last year and several years forward as sort of repairing that time and that trust, so people know that, when they come to us with any crisis, that we want to resolve it. And so when I was reviewing eviction data from last year, out of the numbers, the majority of cases were resolved. And by resolved, I mean they caught up, we got them connected to Law New York or Catholic Charities or DSS, they got caught up on their rent, or resolved whatever other it's classified as a nuisance issue, right, by the courts. We've been able to resolve that together, and they stayed in their housing, right? That's a success. We want people to stay in housing. So it's very bifurcated, although there's a lot of collaboration, clearly. Oftentimes, my maintenance folks are the first person to report back, hey, I was doing this inspection and something didn't seem right. I think we need to reach out and have a conversation here. And so to that effect, in July, we're all going to be going through, my entire organization will be doing a trauma-informed training, and our goal is to become a trauma-informed certified organization, because it's folks who are, doing a work order who often need to understand, how to navigate a situation where someone may not feel trust for whatever reason it is. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
And that's good to hear.
Yeah.
The last question, and this is related to I also think it's important to keep people in their homes for as long as they want to be in their homes. And so it's good to hear you say that a bunch. A constituent of mine actually wanted to be here to public comment, but couldn't because work. So this question comes from them, but I like it too, which is,
sure.
In recent years, context, as we know, high housing costs have pushed residents out of, especially Black renters, out of the city and out of their neighborhoods, and thinking from Ithaca, where I live, and further from schools and work and stores. Would INHS consider designating some units aside for people who were priced out to return?
That's a really great question. So where I started my career on the West Coast, Seattle and Portland, Oregon, both have very progressive right to return legislation and policies. And that framework really has to be in place for us to develop and still meet the rules and regulations of fair housing, right? Right now, that's not a protected class. But let me back up and say, we are super proud that we are a big part of keeping Ithaca and Tompkins County economically, racially, and ethnically diverse. 25%, almost all of our tenants are low income, our residents at varying levels. We are 25%, we survey our residents and take information at intake. 25% of our residents identify as people of color, 15% identify as African American or Black. We know the rate of that particular community in Ithaca has been shrinking. Now I think it's 5.5% Black folks in Ithaca. This is a conversation I'm having with Southside all the time, and I finding ways, policy-wise, I would really love to have that conversation here and at the city level for what other municipalities have done for right to return. If you have been gentrified, if the pressures of gentrification have caused you to have to leave. And I also want to be clear, we've seen press, right, for farmers in Caroline and other places where they have experienced really overt discrimination and racial harassment. Not everywhere outside of Ithaca may be welcoming, right? So this is part of the reason we want to provide as much different kind of housing as possible. I also have folks from Ithaca who are like, I desperately want to live in a manufactured home in the country, right? So I want people of all backgrounds to have choice, right? And I think the choice has been feeling like it's been very limited over, the last several years as prices have gotten higher and higher. So So that is a framework I've seen work in other municipalities, that if there were the will to do that here, you know, we could really look at that. Right now, fair housing does require that we serve, you know, everybody equally, right? And all the protected classes, you know, that's core to what we do, absolutely core to what we do. So it would have to dovetail with that, would be my suggestion. And I've certainly talked to folks at the city level about it too. So let's talk more.
All right, yeah, thank you.
Great.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to jump in, Kate, and say thank you.
Yeah, thank
on
you.
behalf of the committee and the legislature for sharing the great work that you're doing. Please extend our thanks and gratitude to your staff, your volunteers, your board, your funding partners, right? Because I know it really does take a village to pull these projects together.
Yeah.
And you definitely are making an impact in our community and the communities in which you serve. So thank you.
Thank you.
It's a much needed function and service that we don't have enough of.
Thank you.
So if there's any way that we can ever be of more help or better help, don't hesitate to ask. And while you're here, if our folks from our planning and sustainability department don't mind, and there's no objection for members of the committee, I'd like to move up the 2 resolutions that we have where we, I think we've got a negative declaration and then the authorization to disperse some county funds for projects that relate to INHS.
And I guess I just say I did not coordinate this, so this is wild, but I should have known. The CHDF, right, that the county and the city and Cornell participate in is also a groundbreaking thing that doesn't happen all over the country.
Town of Dryden and Town of Ithaca.
And Town of Dryden, yep, and Town of Ithaca, sorry.
That's okay.
And that is something for which we're very thankful for and really does help move the needle on all our rental and homeownership. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you again. I'm going to go ahead and move the resolution, negative declaration for authorization disbursement of the Community Housing Development Fund, CHDF, award for Ithaca Neighborhood Housing Service, INHS, Freeze Road Apartments, ID number 1370. If I move that, Ann Koreman seconds. Then Megan and Shauna, or whomever, I'll turn it over to either of you.
Hopefully this works. Okay, it's like moving around.
Can you just take Course's name tag down, please?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, don't get
Excuse me.
misidentified.
So this is part of the Community Housing Development Fund process. We need to get a negative declaration for the construction of these units. This is for the Freeze Road Apartments in Varna, which Kate was just speaking about. So the negative declaration just says there's not going to be a significant negative environmental impact because of these units. And then the second resolution is authorizing the disbursement of funds from the county portion, which is $50,000.
Great. Any questions on the negative declaration and all of the 800 pages that accompanied that resolution? Okay, all right, well, seeing none, all those in favor? All right, great, that passes unanimously. The next one we have is a resolution authorization to disperse Tompkins County funds to the Community Housing Development Fund, CHDF, for Freeze Road Apartments, ID number 13272. If I could have a mover. Moved by Ann Koreman, seconded by Veronica. And so Shauna, if you just want to highlight the funding of this, it's $100,000 and with the makeup of that funding.
Sure. So it's a total award of $100,000. $50,000 of that is contributed by the town of Dryden as an associate member of the program, and then the other $50,000 is the Tompkins County contribution.
Great. Questions from members of the committee? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Great, that passes unanimously. You have a report or discussion from the planning folks, Katie, so I guess I'd turn it over to you then next.
Great, thank you. We'll try to keep it crisp. So the first is just, Shauna just stood up, but she runs our Community Housing Development Fund now, and round 25 is open right now for applications. That's going to be closing May 30th, so it'll be interesting to see what we get for proposals from developers. The second point is just to kind of wrap up a little bit the New York State County Infrastructure Program that you allocated the application from Southworks for $1 million. Did go forward. The application was submitted, so we don't know yet if it was funded, but everything looked positive when we put that in. I also wanted to share that last week I attended Empire State Development and the governor's, I had to look this up, the Governor's Office of Semiconductor Expansion Management and Integration, GO-SEMI, had a meeting in the downtown conference center here in Ithaca. It was very interesting. There's such a huge investment. Everyone knows about Micron happening up in Clay, New York. But it was the first time that I kind of understood where our area might be able to plug in with the niche that we might fill for the supply chain for that huge investment in Clay. So I think, some conversations have started to do some more site selection, marketing of the sites that we have. They were saying you want to make it visible so that companies in Japan looking for office space can find us. So there are a lot of people interested in moving that conversation forward right now. And then the last thing I wanted to report on is we're going to tag team on this, but Megan and I both went out to the U.S. Housing and Community Development Conference in Dallas at the end of March. And I can speak for myself. It was one of the best conferences I've ever been to. It was fantastic. It was the second annual. There were representatives from all 50 states were there. It was probably half public sector and half private and nonprofit, very in the weeds on housing affordability, homeless shelters, regular market rate housing. It was just a great conference. We came back with tons of ideas, and as I let all of you know, we have a new housing director coming on at the end of May, so we're ready to hit the ground running with that. But just wanted to highlight a few things that we learned from the conference. I guess overall it was very positive. It was just very nice to see so many people working so hard, trying to serve the people who don't have homes or can't afford their homes all across the country. So it was really kind of empowering and inspirational. Came back feeling like there are a lot of things that we have absolutely no control over that are really impacting the housing market at all price points right now. I came away feeling like it's the bond financing markets that are driving everything, which I know very little about. So that's been interesting to look at that. But they're predicting that housing starts are going to be, basically non-existent for a while some of these tariffs, et cetera, work their way through the process. One of the takeaways is just the focus on partnerships, kind of what you can do at the local and regional level right now while some of the federal programs are getting situated. So that's an interesting idea, is kind of small group meetings with developers asking what it is that is making their projects not move forward locally. Focusing on public sector, just recognizing that everywhere really, the public sector, it's hard for them to increase taxes enough to pay people enough to be able to afford housing near where they live. And so there's an incentive there for recruitment and retention. If they do have any kind of property, helping them connect with developers, that type of thing. And then, this exploring things like small gap financing and public bonding and missing middle housing. And another area where we could work without a lot of money is the time is money aspect of it, working with our local municipal partners on making the permitting easier and quicker and more certain. So we've been working on that, but there's more that we could do in that area. And then I will turn it over to Megan because we got back from Dallas and jumped right into a local housing conference.
Yes, I know many folks participated. Cornell's Town Gown Conference this year was focused on housing. And I think while we were there, it was great hearing that there were maybe more than usual kind of central New York representation, since they often draw participants from other college town communities that may be out of state as well. But I think making those connections, both with, in terms of at the state side, some of the effort going on with revolving loan funds and thinking about housing production funds, those sorts of things, but also finding out what folks in Syracuse and other places are doing, and then they knowing others. And so it was kind of serendipitous, I think, coming on the heels of this other conference and some work we had been mulling over and starting to kind of draft ahead of that kind of putting the pieces and potential other brains to tap into the mix. And so I actually went up, that led to an invitation from some of us to go up to Syracuse to hear about their Invest Syracuse effort. And there are other things going on up there since they're anticipating a lot of impacts from Micron. And since the effort with the Enterprise Foundation and the Furman Center, where I was invited by the city to join their team working on kind of mid-sized cities grappling with housing issues, that ended up rather high level with a really diverse group of participants. And I think there was a little bit of a divide in that process between those of us that really need more supply, and that's like kind of the #1 driver, versus other communities that may be dealing with a lot more empty properties and things like that. So anyway, we've been kind of taking back to them, if you want to continue this work, trying to establish some sort of functional sort of central New York or statewide housing brain trust, really focused on some specifics. Instead of trying to be all things to all people, really like people that have already done different parts of the work and know some of the connections and some of the other partners to bring in to have kind of more of a practitioner's brainstorming meeting, getting key questions together about what we could be doing at a local, regional, or state level to actually try to pump up the housing production in New York State with anything that we can influence, bringing down interest rates, through bonding or philanthropy. Like, how can we bring all of the folks working on this across the state together to see what we can do, and if we can volunteer as guinea pigs, if efforts can't be statewide all at once, how that might work. So I think there's going to be more to come, connecting with those that have helped Montgomery County and other communities as they noodle the kind of complexities of all that.
Awesome. Questions for Katie or Megan? I guess I would say thank you for doing that work and for going to those places and spending time away and taking those trips and bringing good information back. I don't know, I personally get this feeling that there's a little bit more momentum around housing, and it seems to kind of be building each year, and that's great. With the addition of staff members and the new staff person that we're bringing on board, and just the community conversations, it seems like a good time, and hopefully the barriers and obstacles that stand in our way and continue to what feels like get bigger and bigger at times, we can just get more creative and work around. And so I appreciate all the focus and effort that your team and your department have on completing that work, because I think as we heard from Kate, it's needed and it's meaningful.
Thank you. We're awfully lucky to have great partners in the community.
Yeah. The other thing is just a shout out to the housing director, the interview process. Haven't been a part of that to see how thorough and detailed and thoughtful that was. I'm very excited about the outcome of that, and we had a lot of great people have show interest, but it was just kind of fun to be a part of that. So thank you. I think you guys did a very thorough job coming to a great conclusion.
Thanks for your help.
Yeah. Veronica.
Seconding all of what Greg said at the first part. I don't know about the second. But I wanted to add, last year in the budget process, we had a lot of discussion about travel and training funds and, what we were getting for them, and when money was tight, what to do with them. And it was all happening at once in a little bit of the abstract, but this kind of report back is really helpful to see what comes back to our county through our brilliant staff when when you travel somewhere.
Thank you. That's one reason we wanted to report, honestly. We did get free registration because we were public sector, so it wasn't crazy expensive. But, you know, Megan's worked for 15 years here. It was her first plane trip to a conference, and it was fantastic that it was so worthwhile. It was really amazing. So thank you, and I really appreciate that.
Ann?
Yeah, I just want to add on to that to thank my colleagues for helping, you know, put that money into, you know, the budget. And as we think about that, you know, going through budgeting, these things really matter, giving our departments the tools they need to do their jobs. So, and thank you all for really focusing. I mean, I know that's, some people say, well, it's your job, but you guys go above and beyond, you know, to really focus on the needs of our community, and it's really heartwarming for me. So thank you.
Thanks.
Well, I'm going to stop the planning department love fest here for a little bit and get back to business. Now that we've all felt good for, you know, the rest of the week, get back to work. Thank you. I'm going to move back to the agenda. We have under the chair's report still a resolution, which I'm going to go ahead and move now, endorsing New York State legislation A7620 and S7072, expands the Tompkins County Industrial Development Agency, TCIDA, from 7 to 9 members. This is doc ID 13247, and I would move. Seconded by Veronica. This is a follow-up to the resolution where we had requested consideration by our assembly person and state senator to introduce legislation on our behalf, requesting this. Attached to this resolution is the adopted resolution and the associated Assembly and Senate resolution that Senator Webb and Assemblymember Kellis have submitted. So thank you to the clerks for putting a great package resolution together for this so that we can see all the pieces in one spot. And then this is just our formal endorsement of those two pieces of legislation, which is a required step to the passage of these in Albany. Any questions on this resolution? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Great, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Taylor and Katrina, for your efforts on that front. Next, we have County Administrator's Report. I see Bridget.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I just have a couple quick updates regarding the proposed emergency shelter development project on Cherry Street. So just so you're aware, we did submit to OTDA at New York State our initial concept paper through our work with our consultant. We have a meeting scheduled with OTDA early next week to start to talk through that initial concept, and that will allow us to move into more concrete design and in anticipation of submitting an application for the HHAP funding. And as you hopefully are aware, the request for qualifications has gone out for a nonprofit partner to partner with us to develop that shelter and then eventually operate it. Those responses are due on May 12th. So we look forward to reviewing those responses and hopefully entering into a partnership with a nonprofit operator. That's all I have.
Great. Any questions for Bridget or County Administration? No? All right. Thanks, Bridget. Appreciate the update.
You bet. Thank you.
Next, we have our homelessness and housing update. I see Liddy Barger from the Continuum of Care is with us, as well as Donna Scott, who is a deputy commissioner at DSS, joining in place of Kit today. I guess I would turn it over to either or both of you for a quick update on things that pertain to the homeless and unhoused, and welcome you both to the committee.
Good afternoon, I'm Donna, and I can start because the information I have is very brief.
Great.
For numbers of folks in shelter, as of Friday, we had a total of 94 individuals and that was made up of 81 adults and 13 children.
Okay. It's never good to hear the numbers, but thank you for sharing them. Any questions for Donna at DSS? No? All right. Well, Donna, we appreciate that update, and hopefully we can continue to work on keeping those numbers low and getting those folks the assistance that they need. So thanks again. All right, Liddy, I guess we'll come over to you then.
Hello, hi, good afternoon, as we say. So I also have a very brief update this week. I am working on putting together like a whole presentation for this group that I think is going to be next month, and looking forward to that. So we'll save all that. So today, I mostly want to talk about the continuum of care. We are meeting and working. One thing that is not currently happening in our continuum of care is currently paused is our committee meetings, which is sad. And the reason that that's not happening is that we have some hiring to do. So I came to talk to you about some open positions at Human Services Coalition. So we are currently hiring for 3 positions. They're all cool, dynamic positions. I may or may not have mentioned how much I love working at Human Services Coalition. It's a great place to work. 2 of the positions are working directly in housing. One is through the enhanced 1115 social care network waiver, helping people get directly connected to things like back rent, security deposit, all of those really important housing stability things. There's also a position open as the coordinated entry lead and COC staff person. And that is the person, if you are talking to your constituents and you're working with somebody who has an aptitude for like data and people and systems, really direct them my way if they're looking to make a change in the homeless response system. And then we are also hiring for another social care navigator position through the 11 to 15 waiver. So we are growing our housing footprint just a little bit right now and scaling up to do that. And that's really what I came to say. Come work with me. It's a great place.
Okay, great. Well, I'm sure it's a heavy lift for just one person right now. So
I currently would love, so we have some really exciting committees this year that are already planned. We have the agenda. We know what we're going to be working on. Anybody who was in the Continuum of Care meeting yesterday heard me talking a lot about prevention and housing stability and homeless prevention work. And so we want to start those committees, but we want to do a good job at it. So I'm looking forward to having another staff person with me.
great. Well, any questions for Liddy or the Continuum of Care? All right. Well, we'll spread the word. Liddy, I don't know if you have a job description or announcement.
Yeah, it's all on our website, so I can send it to Taylor to post, but it's very clearly on the HSC website under job openings.
Great, yeah, if you could send that to Taylor, and then Taylor, if we could send that to the rest of the legislature as we're out in the community, if we point somebody in that direction, try to help you as much as we can.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, Liddy. Have a great rest of the afternoon.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we've got our workforce development, Chris Bond, Director of Workforce Development. All dressed up, suit and tie, sharp as always.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, just got to share my screen and everything. I don't have any interviews today to run to, so.
Good.
I'll try to be.
Only the tulips still look like that after all this rain.
Yeah, I know. They're getting there. They're getting there. So to start off, well, actually today I'm going to talk about our communications, how that's been going, and then give some updates on our work with those with disabilities. Scout Frost, who was our communication specialist for the past year or so, actually found employment elsewhere. So they will be working in planning in Chester County in the Philadelphia area. So that was important to provide an update of what's been going on. We were planning to have Scout do this presentation in the summer, but I will move forward with it since we have been doing a lot, and it's important to give an update. In regards to staffing, also, we are going to hire a disability resource coordinator. They'll start on May 27th. So that was actually the interview I was running from last month. So we're excited to have that person also and almost be fully staffed. We just need the communication specialist position to be filled now, and then we'll be staffed, assuming no one leaves and everything. So that's where we're at with staffing. So we're really excited. But to get started, so communication goals. So this goes back to when the department restructured and we created workforce development in October 2023, we felt it was important to rebrand the newly formed department, have a cohesive marketing strategy, and along with that, that would lead to better visibility within the county, and then that would allow people to access and, you know, help us serve more job seekers. The big picture goal would be to increase our brand recognition, create emotional connections through that marketing, and then also show that we're established and credible and people really understand who we are. So I would say this stuff is actually in progress. I think we are making a lot of progress with that. And of course, it would be nice to have a new logo. So we are hoping to get that new logo by the end of the year where, you know, we can be like Whole Health, our counterparts and colleagues, you know, they've done pretty well with their restructure and branding, and I talked with Frank before he left about all those things. So we definitely do have the right ideas and a roadmap to move ahead and move pretty fast with that. So we are very excited about that. Okay, so going back to 2023, these were the basic tools that we assessed and we felt that we needed. Either we had them or they needed to be updated immediately. Our website definitely had to be updated, so I'm sure you all remember the old platform that we had from last century. That had to be updated. We did not have a newsletter. We always dreamed of a newsletter. That's something Scout helped create and then get moving. So we have had a newsletter since last year. So I think we've had 12 of them, or about 12 of them so far. Outreach materials, we kind of had some outreach materials. You know, they were made out of Microsoft Word and just different programs, and it really depended on who was there and who had the skills. So we ended up transitioning into Canva, and we actually have an account through the county. So thank you to Dominic and then now Monica. We're still a user on that. So that is very important to have for us because it makes it so much easier to make a flyer. It's so much faster, looks way more professional. So we do appreciate the investment that the county puts into those things because otherwise our department could not afford a Canva Pro account. Social media, we just want to get that more consistent. We know that our youth participants, you know, they may use that more, but you know, it's just another thing out there to have. I'm trying to expand our LinkedIn that we have just to connect more with businesses. So that's something more I would manage and interact that way. And then special projects, like we needed to add to the website. So the opportunity map that we created that shows you where different providers are and where the resources are. Just updates, general updates to the website, such as the newsletter and things like that were very important, and it's something that we needed. So website, like I said, that was something that needed to be fixed. It wasn't a very positive user experience for folks out there. I've never done this before, so I'm gonna try to hop around and go to like the actual old website and then show you the new website. It will take us hours to talk about the whole thing, so I'm just gonna use one example. So give me a second. Okay, everybody see that? Yeah. Okay, so there's actually a website called Wayback Time Machine. So you go to this website, you can put in a URL, and it will take you back to a website and how it looks back then. So on August 14th, 2022, this was our website. As you can see, this is all we had. It was very hard to use, so I'll say I'm a job seeker. We'll use that example. It's almost there. It's about to load. This is how the internet loaded back then too. No, I do not want to sign up for that. I'm already signed up. Okay. So basically this is what it gives you: jobs, workshops, and get help. we felt like that wasn't very user-friendly or anything. So the new update would be, here's the new website. I am hopeful that we can put icons on these boxes, like to match with each of these boxes. But the update, so job seeker services. So this would be the upgrade. Again, we're not done. There's still more that we want to do this upcoming year. So we have it more simplified. Okay, I'm on the website. What workshops are there? I may need guidance. I may need help with like making a resume, career services. Oh, there's training out there, okay. And then job referrals, like find jobs through our jobs bank. So now a user can see, okay, I'm 14 and 24, or I might have a kid, or I might know somebody. That leads them to our Job Link youth program, which can connect you with summer employment, and then our year-round program. Explore career pathways, so don't know what you want to do yet, so it tells you what our services are, and then you can sign up for that right there. And then we can follow up with you, because a lot of times people sign up and then you don't hear from them or things like that. So it's just a way to keep track of who we're contacting. The Indeed Job Search Academy partnership that we are doing, so that is also something that people can do on their free time, watch YouTube videos, go through their resources. It's a collaboration with Indeed and their fleet of services, since a lot of people are going to Indeed for help. And then find a training. So this also is, there's a lot of other trainings that are out there too. So we have Learning with Coursera, which is a free service. And here are our partners. So you've heard of these: Tompkins Build, Direct to Work. There's certified apprenticeships, College Initiative Upstate, HETP, which is Hospitality Employment and Training Program. So that's something that we worked on and streamlining for everybody, because we know that like a lot of times we interact with them in person, but then a lot of times people are only interacting with us through the internet. So we thought it was important to have it more clear for them, like lay it out for them, because back in 2022 it was more like your traditional of, okay, I'm looking for a job, and it's like, okay, find a job, and then you see our website and it's like, what the heck is this? And you don't really know what to do. So we're really trying to emphasize the importance of our services and the Career Center. So we're excited for the Center of Government and our move to there, so we can be more visible to the public. Okay, newsletter. So newsletter, this is the last thing I'm gonna hop back to. I hope that's okay, but the newsletter is really meant to highlight our partners, events that are going on, all that good stuff that we love. So I'll use this as an example. So Lev Kitchen, that's a great business that's on the Commons. Yen Wu is actually a member of the Workforce Board, and they do a lot of great work. They work with people, they hire people who have never, who are just looking for an opportunity, have come from a high needs background, they face challenges, they collaborate with us on stuff. Yen actually is going back to get her, she's about to get her MSW because she wanted to understand her workers more, and then she also, was looking to do more in that field also. So it's really cool people over there, lots of great outdoor eating too, so I highly recommend going to that place. But these are pictures of their workers and participants. So we do that, we try to profile a company or nonprofit every month where we interview them or we highlight a participant just to kind of put a picture behind the story. Back then we had the MAID, which is the Manufacturing Expo that we do for youth. So we had 250 students from 13 different high schools gathered at TC3. So that's just an opportunity to show people of what's going on. I'll skip down. Like random things happen, like there's a free semiconductor training for vets at TC3. How are you gonna find out about that? I don't know. Maybe if you happen to talk to Chris or Carrie Whitmore up at TC3. So we also want to, grab things like this that happen and put it on a forum where people can go to. This part just highlights our workshops that are out there. At the time, I thought it was important for people to vote, so I did highlight a partner organization too, that like, hey, this is what you need to do to vote. But at the very bottom, we did thank the Tompkins County Legislator, we see you all for your support. So last year you did approve our OTR request for a transition workforce specialist, and then also we were at risk of getting a 5% cut, which would have affected our programs, the people that we could help, the faces that you see in this newsletter. So we also do use this as a chance to educate the public to say, like, hey, there's a connection between workforce and the Tompkins County Legislator, and they also do care about workforce. So that's an example. So basically that changes every month, but we feel like that is moving in the right direction. If you look at the data, as of April 2025, we have on our job seeker list, we have about 6,000. And we scrubbed some emails from there that weren't really working, or they're not functional. But the engagement rate for these emails are 65%. So that's basically, I have Google to thank, because Scott Frost is gone, and they would have explained it to me before the meeting. But the engagement rate measures how actively subscribers are interacting with the content sent to them. It's calculated by dividing the number of opens, clicks, and/or forwards by the total number of emails sent. So people are receiving these, and they are engaging with them and forwarding them and doing all that great stuff. The red line at the top is the total recipients. So this is dating back to May 2024. So we've been pretty steady with our amount of subscribers, because we did take some people out and we've been adding people. The yellow line there, yellow or orange line, is the total opens. So that's how many opens there have been for like the email. So it could be you clicked it and then you went back and then you clicked it again. The unique opens is the bottom line, which was at 2,788 last month. So that means just the one time it's been open. So for example, if I went to the email, opened it, clicked around, that would just count as one. And then if I went back again, it wouldn't count again at all, because I already did it. So that would be a unique open. It wouldn't be counting me going back 100 times and things like that. So back then, Dominic Recchio did say we had really good open rates in compared to what the standard typically is. So he was very happy with that, and we do have to thank him for helping us build this newsletter list out. And the open rate is 43.7%, so that's what it was. So he was saying that it's at a healthy rate. Outreach materials, like I said, this was made on Canva, but we can go many directions with these flyers, and there's so many different formats, and it just makes it so much easier, and it's easier to share with our partners. So a lot of times our partners share our flyer. And of course, again, I can't wait for the new logo, because we'll have it slapped on these flyers. The community will get used to it. Social media, I'm not gonna get too much into that, but I kind of touched upon it earlier. We just brought back the Facebook, we have an Instagram, LinkedIn. Those are kind of the big three, but we're not really throwing like a ton of time into it because we don't get as much engagement with it, but we are trying to maintain it and do have a relationship with our partners too. So we have been seeing a slow growth in that, where we, reshare someone's thing and they'll reshare our stuff, or, we'll like their stuff and they'll like our stuff too. So we are excited about that. Okay, so yeah, so actually that was the ending of the communications part. So, I can pause really quick if anyone has any communications related questions. We're good. Okay, cool. So we'll keep moving. So the New York Scion, so that has to do with, that's money we get from the state, where it funds our disability resource coordinators. So this program is meant to further people's training, education, and employment opportunities for those with different abilities. It's also meant to engage the business community and get them more involved with hiring those with different abilities. So recently, the New York Scion program they said that they had some extra funds, actually. So we ended up submitting a request of $61,000 for several different things, training for staff, and then training for local businesses, and then outreach materials. So that would mean trifold handouts, flyers, little postcards, and then also to do a disability awareness campaign. So I don't know how that's actually going to officially look, but we do want to raise awareness in the community about the importance of hiring those with different abilities. So that's actually something that's in the works that we have to do, but they believed in my pitch, so I like this problem. It's a good problem to have. And then we also want to do a summit, some sort of summit, half-day summit for local businesses, and get a guest speaker to come and talk about, train the group, and then also talk about the importance of what we're trying to work towards. So we are excited for that. And the final piece is adaptive technology. So keyboards that have large keys that are bright, larger monitors, software, special software that the Commission for the Blind recommends for people. It's called JAWS and Zoom Text. And also there's a phone a special phone that we're able to get for folks. So people say, like, you know, people with disabilities don't come to our career center, but it's also like, what do we have for them to come? So, you know, we want to be a hub. We want to be known like, hey, like Tompkins Workforce Near Career Center, they have these resources. You should check it out. And that picture is Jordan, who's actually the transition workforce specialist we were able to hire because you approved our request. So he also models for us for these photos. So it has made a difference. But no, he was there, and this is actually something we have as a special table that can go up and down for somebody. So if you do have a wheelchair, you can actually, you know, slide there and you can adjust whatever is necessary. So we do have some stuff, but it's not good enough. So we did an inventory with the Disability Workforce Committee that we have through the Workforce Board. And we did that inventory, and then we also created a survey to send out to the business community to see the needs that businesses also need in serving those. And on that Disabilities Workforce Committee, there's people from Access VR, Bruce Flaherty from Tompkins Whole Health, Flick, Unity House, TC3, BOCES, and Access VR, I said that in Challenge. So it's a pretty good spread of partners in the area. Yes?
Sorry, just to help me get my mind back on track, did you say you applied for the grant or you applied and received?
Oh, yeah, so we applied for it and then we received it.
Okay, sorry.
It's basically ours, but we need to get the NOA from the state. So the money is in the state's hands also, so it's not going to be.
They've identified you as the awardee.
Yeah, they had identified us, so we were very excited for that. So special thanks to Scott Frost, who helped with that last minute, and then to Diane Eccles, who's our deputy director on the board, they whipped up the budget. They helped me find everything that we needed because it was kind of like a quick request. They're like, first come, first serve, give us our stuff.
New money for the department.
Yeah, new money for the department.
Great.
Well, new money for the people, but yes, new money for the department. Yeah. So we're excited. And we are also, we're able to use some of that money for staff wage and fringe if you're supporting those with this program. So we do know that, there is uncertainty. So we are just trying to find money where we can to help cover any issues we may have.
Didn't you tell us about a grant you got last time you were here too?
Yeah. So the youth employment program. So yeah. So
one of the things I appreciate about you and your department, I don't want to say scrappy because that maybe has a negative connotation. I mean it positively. Like, you see the problem, you address the need, you go out and you find the money, and you submit an application that's worthy of being funded. Yeah. That's kind of the model, and that's what we hope to see all of our departments do, because there isn't enough money to go around, as we all know. And there's, I believe, a lot of money out there for the taking, for those that are prepared and nimble and agile enough to be able to whip something up and get the budget and get a good application in. So appreciate your fight for your department and the people that you serve for getting those up and ready, because not many departments can say that they had 2 new grants, or a grant each time they come back to a program committee like ours. And I was like, oh yeah, we got new money again. Yeah. Here, we got new money again here. So good work. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate those comments. We do like to be called scrappy, so you've got to get it done. So I don't think I will have more money at the next committee meeting, but
Come on, Chris,
I might win the Powerball or something. So we'll see. Yeah. So this is actually Yen from Lab Kitchen. That was not intentional. It just kind of worked out like that. So that was at our workforce board retreat. for the survey, so I mentioned that earlier, really meant to just get baseline knowledge about what their knowledge is of helping those with disabilities. What do you know about the accommodations that are out there? What do you know about, what are you uncomfortable with? So people have been very honest, you know, they're like, I want a workshop on ADA 101. I want to learn about hiring incentives. I want that, these are just some of the common themes. You know, I would like to learn more about like for recruitment and things like that. So there definitely is a need out there right now. And, you know, we kind of want to be the player that kind of helps move this forward and, you know, just do our part where we can in like the workforce area, because that is an untapped pool of talent and it's people that deserve an opportunity also. So we feel like we're the ones that can collaborate with the community and kind of figure it out, because like we can't do everything on our own, obviously, but if we all collectively just put our resources together, you know, we can try to figure out something at least. So this is what we're excited about with this, and this will drive our future workshops that we hope to do. I don't see them happening anytime soon, but I think we'll have more probably at the end of the year or early next year. So those are all my updates right now. So I believe I said everything I wanted to say. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you, Chris. Questions or comments from members of the committee? Go with Ann and then Veronica.
Thank you, Chris, for the updates, and congratulations on the new grant. So you talked about people with disabilities, you know, trying to, I appreciate your frankness of, if you're not set up to be able to serve them, why would they come in? Kind of, if I could paraphrase that. Have you, so in that vein, have you worked with or collaborated with Finger Lakes Independent Center or Racker Center or Challenge? Or I know there's other places too, but.
Yeah, so Jan Lynch, the executive director at Flick, is actually on that committee, and then we have Briggs Seekins from Challenge also. So they're on that, that drove this idea of the survey and the inventory. So that committee is meant to serve, I don't like to say serve, but I mean, they're a group that's like an advisory group that helps helps me know like what's really going on out there and like what are the needs. And then I also tell them what's going on with us. So we meet every other month at our office, and we come up with a new thing that we want to be working on, depending on like the climate of the time. And so this is something we felt like was very important.
Right, so I forgot you had that group that meets, and so just so people know that you have that organization or the group of people that meet across, from organizations across the county, am I correct? To help figure out what barriers and how to increase services for people with disabilities, but you tell me if I'm on the right track of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so that's something, that's the role we play, is we have that committee, and we also, through the DRC, once we have our disability resource coordinator, that person will be out in the community working with these organizations more closely. So that will be like our relationship, but we also do go partner with other organizations. So, like Continuum of Care and things like that, we have staff that go to that. So we do our part where we see fit to be part of like other initiatives that are going on in the community too. So we like to play our role where we think it's meant to be, and then we will support something else if we feel like it's going to help our customers and help our partners. We're not really looking to try to compete with people really. So yeah, so we do what you're asking.
Thank you, and I just wanted to mention, as we're looking at a new center of government and our own buildings here, there's standards, for people with disabilities, but it doesn't mean that it's easy to access. And a case in point I always point out is the store here.
Yeah.
To get into here can be pretty hard, difficult to get into the legislature, the ramp outside, and anyway, it can be hard to access this building. So there's meeting ADA requirements, and then sometimes I would hope that we think about that with the new center of government and our buildings, that sometimes you want to go a little bit above that so that it is truly easier to access for our community members.
Yeah, so that, we actually discussed that at our last committee meeting, the importance of what you just said. And, wherever we may end up moving, we definitely have that at the top of our minds, is making sure it's accessible for people and they feel welcome. Because, yeah, it's true. You could have a law, but, if it's not, I used to be a special education teacher, so there's a lot that was not followed what I saw not followed for students, and that happens all over the country. And just because it's a law, someone has to enforce it too. So, I think we definitely have that at the top of our minds. So I appreciate your advocacy, for our customers too.
Thank you.
Hey, Veronica, I got time for one quick question.
Jumping off what Annie said, sort of for the disabilities in the workplace survey, that's very exciting you're doing that. Are you also surveying just disabled people disabled workers, hopeful workers, former workers? Because I wonder if there could be a bit of a you don't know what you don't know among employers.
Yeah, so the farthest we've gotten was what I've said, but I actually like what you just said, so I appreciate that, because we haven't considered that right now. So we will definitely look into that, and that would be great to complement what we're trying to do. So really appreciate that thought. So we've just been so focused on the business and this and that, but that's another piece that we can naturally slide into. So thank you.
Chris, I appreciate the time, energy, effort, and all the good things that you and your team are continuing to do to better our community. So thanks again for your time.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Chris. All right, last but certainly not least, under Arts, Culture, and Tourism, we have a tourism quarterly update by our tourism director, Nick Hemholt.
Great. Thanks. Keep it quick. I know we've had a long, full meeting agenda already. In your packet, you've got the quarterly report for first quarter of 2025. Feels strange to say that in May, but yeah, this is when we do the first quarter report. Room tax came in really close to budget, 1% below what we forecast in the budget, but partly made up for by a really high collection of late payments. So that's doing pretty well. There's a brief summary of STPB meetings that have been held and some of the reports that have been delivered. We are in the midst of putting together our 2026 budget, which I expect will be presented to the STPB this month on the 21st. Just literally earlier today, sent out sort of the first draft of what that could look like. So stay tuned for that, more to come. And working with fine colleagues to my right and folks in finance on implementing the law that recently passed relating to short-term rentals. This is a law that should the county opt into, we would be able to continue to collect sales tax from short-term rentals. So don't have any particular updates on that, just letting folks know it's in the works in the background. You might notice this report is one page shorter than it has been in previous quarters, trying to move some things online. The events calendar is one of those things, so I encourage all of you to take a moment in your online PDF, click on that events calendar, bookmark it. That will have a list of everything that we as a county have funded as an event that's coming up. Trying to keep that up to date as grants get awarded and let folks know what's happening. The table I have not yet figured out how to get online is this other one of all the money that we've paid out, but a future quarter, perhaps that will also be a link. So that's my report for today. Happy to answer any questions folks have.
Thanks, Nick. Just to remind everybody, Q1 for room tax purpose is December 1st, 2024 through February 28, 2025. It's sort of shifted 1 month back, just so everybody knows what Q1 actually means. I guess, have a question maybe for you, and maybe this is for Maury too, on the short-term rental law and opting in. Will we have to pass local legislation or a resolution formally opting into that? When do we see, in terms of implementation, a timeline for capturing or making this, I'm not as familiar with the governor's order signing this law, what the next steps may be for the community are specifically, if that makes sense.
It does. The questions do make sense. We're meeting on much of that shortly. So I think the most efficient way to handle that would be for me or Holly to email the committee on those questions.
Okay, great. I just said, as this changes, and hopefully we're working with Monica on some sort of communication strategy or something as it becomes more quote unquote real for those folks that operate short-term rentals or have short-term rentals. I just want to make sure nobody's blindsided or there's no surprises, and that it's very fair and obvious what needs to take place. But I know there's still probably a heavy lift on finance, planning, and our legal team to bring together.
Yeah, relating to timeline, I can say from the law, I believe the timeline for having the registration system set up is November, is the expectation set in that law. But I'll confirm that in email later.
So is our voluntary agreement with Airbnb still in place?
It is, and we had a meeting with them recently, and it sounds like they are intending to keep that in place for now.
And will they start collecting sales tax as a part of that, or just occupancy tax?
My understanding is they're currently collecting sales tax. If you go on Airbnb right now and put any address in New York State in, you should see sales tax as a component of that when you get to the checkout point.
Got it. And then they're remitting that?
That goes to the state. So,
okay.
Yeah, and then comes back through sort of the state's standard sales tax disbursement. Okay,
great. All right. Any questions for Nick on the tourism front? I also see Peggy Coleman from the Chamber in Visit Ithaca, CVB, is here with us today too. Maybe just watching or joining in. But any questions on the tourism front? Okay. Well, seeing none. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. We have committee members' reports. Anything for the good of the committee? A lively bunch today. Okay, go ahead, Ann.
Yeah, I'll just say that I did ask Kate from INHS about a tour. I heard from several legislators that they were interested in a tour of the development in Trumansburg because it has a lot of unique components about it for sale, for rent, and as she said, market rate lots also. So she's going to work on that.
That'd be great. I know that there's also some housing committees in certain municipalities. So if we have a date, I know there's specifically a Dryden Housing Committee that's very active in looking at several things. So if there'd be no objection, I'd love to maybe share that with, and see if we can get a nice cohort of people together. Anything else? If not, you can recapture 12 minutes of your day and we'll stand adjourned at 4:48. So thanks so much, everybody.